Hey, Topi. All right, welcome everyone. Thank you for coming tonight. It's so nice to see so many new faces and some familiar faces. We also have Topi tuning in. We're going to use this awesome technology here to connect people across Europe. So Topi, say hi to the gang. And we're also live streaming to YouTube at the moment, and we have some few people checking in. I'm just gonna get things kicked off right now, and then we have Olena, who's going to talk about HRV and longevity. And after that, we have Topi, who's going to talk about modern breathwork. And that's basically it. We've been going on for a couple of hours now. People have been jumping into the ice baths and the red light therapy. So that's been really fun. I think we'll be doing that again. But yeah, enough intros. Let's jump straight to it. So we're the Berlin longevity community. We started a year ago. It was called Longevity Leaders and Learners at the time, and the inaugural meetup happened about a year ago, today, Thursday, last week of January. And our mission really is to make the science of longevity approachable for everyone. It's very difficult. I know this because I founded this meetup because it was very difficult for me, and I was looking for help to understand it, figure out what I can do, and figure out how can I get all these services that are talked about on the Peter Attia podcast or whatever Sinclair's Lifespan podcast at the time. What does that look like in Berlin or Germany? And you'd use Google, and Google would not be very helpful. You'd go on Reddit, you'd ask some questions, and everyone's like, yeah, let me know when you figure it out. Okay, thanks, guys. So came to this community looking for answers and found a lot of questions. But I also found a lot of people that were willing to search for answers with me. And actually, this is the picture from the very, very first meetup of this community exactly a year ago. 12 people showed up in a very obscure location somewhere in the corner of Prenzlauer Berg. And it turned out to be literally just next to Elena's house. And Elena's the person you see on the very, very far left for those tuning into the live stream. And for those who are here, that's Olena over there. And since then, we've been organizing events and grew the community a little bit to 4 cities now. Munich, Hamburg, Frankfurt, and Berlin. We've met a bunch of cool people over the past year, and we're really, really excited about bringing a lot more events like this. We experimented with different formats, and we found that basically the speaker networking event seems to be really the killer feature. So bringing some real knowledge that we curate, people that we find that we know, and sharing something that we learn, and then trying things like ice bathing, red light therapy, whatever we can make possible for you. So that's really it. That's our in-person community. So you'll find us on Luma, the way that most people found their way here today. And we're also have an online aspect of that, which right now is this WhatsApp community. So if you're not already in the WhatsApp community, please take a picture because we're going to use this for the Q&A during the talks, especially for those tuning in remotely. One last thing that I want to mention, or 2 last things before we get on to our talks, is that out of this community, I met Olena, we continued organizing the events, but then we also started a company, a tech startup, really trying to solve the problems that we thought the community was going to already have solved for us, and then realized we need to take matters into our own hands. And so Liv Longevity Labs is our startup. We're still in the prototype phase. We're building basically, I see my slides are a bit confused. So this is actually what I want to show you. We're building an app right now, which helps you measure your biological age, how quickly your body's aging, your speed of aging, and understand what that actually means, because it's not easy to understand. And then actually understand what you can do about it, what lifestyle changes and so on you can take to actually reduce your pace of aging. So I have a test here. It's from True Diagnostic. We tried out a bunch of different tests over the last year and settled on this one as the golden standard globally. So for you who watched the Brian Johnson documentary on Netflix recently, that's the test he uses. And he did his own due diligence there as well. So this is the app. This is what it looks like. But today is not about that. But if you want to nerd out, if you want to try it out, talk to me after the event today. And I want to say thank you to our sponsor, Flowstate Labs by Brain Effect. You're in Flowstate right now, if you are in person.
You're in the Flowstate.
You're in the Flowstate. For those who did some ice bathing and red light therapy, you're definitely in the Flowstate. Does anybody from Brain Effect want to say something?
I can talk, yes.
Yeah, then over here.
Is in a call. So thanks everyone. I think a lot of you have been here before, some of you haven't. So this is actually a brainchild of Brain Effect. Brain Effect is a brand that makes premium probiotics, vegan protein, and very nice products for your health. And we have a whole line of mono supplements too that you should all check out that do very interesting things. And this, what we're doing is we're actually applying biohacking effects to our products here. So then we have ice baths, we have red light therapy, we have compression boots, and then we finally have an event space where we can actually be doing community outreach. We can be doing free events like this. And I highly encourage everybody to follow Flowstate on Instagram. Also follow our Brain Effect, My Brain Effect on Instagram. It's crazy. And there's a lot of stuff going on, but then we have these meetings going on at least once a month now, and we have lots of talks being organized by these lovely people, and that's all I have to say. So it's
they've been ridiculously hospitable and very, very easy and supportive of our community. So couldn't have done this today without them. That's a fact. That's it. So sign up to the WhatsApp group to ask questions and stay connected afterwards. And I'll hand it over to our first speaker, Olena. So I'm just going to share the screen. Bear with me. Okay. All right, floor is yours.
Thank you. Hi guys, so today you will learn something about HRV, not something, but a lot. And I will talk about HRV in the angle of breath work, because actually you can use HRV for many other things, or you can improve HRV with many other things, but today it's breath work. So can you raise your hand if you measure your HRV or you know your HRV? How many people? Okay, whoa, okay, very good. So hope you will learn something today. So what is HRV? HRV stands for heart rate variability. I guess you will all agree that our heart beats around 60 to 80 times a minute. Let's say 60. And I guess you all assume that it beats with the same cadence, like every second, boom, 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 boom. But it's not completely true. There is a little variation in the time between each consecutive beat. And that difference in time is measured in milliseconds, and it's called heart rate variability. Is it clear for now? Yeah? Okay. And classical, it's measured with ECG, but lots of wearable devices also can measure it with different parameters. So why we actually have HRV? It's because our heart constantly gets two types of signals. First is parasympathetic system and sympathetic system. I guess you heard rest, digest, fight and flight kind of mode. So this is innervation of autonomic nervous system, which ensures that we breathe, that our heart beats, that we digest, and that our blood pressure is stable no matter what is happening. However, our body constantly is attacked by different things, from internal parts such as stress, thinking about what I'm going to do tomorrow at work, and also some external stress. And our autonomic system is constantly balancing this parasympathetic and sympathetic signals. So there is a constant stream of information from those two branches. And because of that, we have this little variation between the heartbeats. And when we are in the rest digest state, our HRV is high. I put here like imaginable numbers, let's say 100, 150 milliseconds. And when we are under the stress and our heart beats is really fast, then HRV is much more smaller, 20 to 50 milliseconds. And it's known that HRV also has a 24-hour cycle, so-called circadian cycle. It's because in the night, when we sleep, we are relaxed, our rest and digest system is active, so HRV is very high. And then I guess this guy is waking up at 8 o'clock, and that's why this HRV plunges down. And then during the day, it's a bit low because we are active, we are stressed, we do stuff, we work, we live. And then closer to the night, HRV again rises up. And here you will see Amar's HRV. Amar, I want to comment. Can you tell you what you did? Because this is like a real person example of HRV over the day.
Yeah, I'm just moving here for the live stream. So this is my HRV starting a little bit before midnight. So I go to bed around 10 p.m. usually, 10, 11. And if I'm very well rested, usually it'll pop up a little bit, it'll spike. And I know that I'm getting some good sleep and that I'm not stressed. If my night doesn't have these spikes, then I know that I'm actually going to be quite fatigued the next day. So this is another signal to me personally that I was properly exhausted the day before, and then I recovered well in the night. And then the next spike is shortly before I wake up. Typically, I have one of those. And then my days are pretty stressful as a startup founder. And and what I've done is I've incorporated breathwork, and the other spike you can see there at the very end is me doing some breathwork after I had lunch. If I don't do that, then the entire day is flat at around 32. If I do some breathwork, at least while I'm doing the breathwork, it'll pop up to 80 to 150, something like that.
Thank you for demonstration. So it's known from literature that higher HRV is correlated with longevity. How? First of all, people who have higher HRV, baseline higher HRV, they have better stress resilience. It's when you are under some physical or mental stress and you are able to deal with it, that you are not that much stressed, let's put it this way. Also, people with higher baseline HRV have better recovery after physical training, again, after any kind of cold or any physical stress the body experiences. So stress resilience and recovery. Then our heart is also tend to be healthier, and the blood vessels tend to be healthier if you have a higher HRV. So it's higher HRV is indicative of cardiovascular health. Emotional regulation. It's true that people with higher HRV show less signs of anxiety. They report less fears. They also report better regulation of negative emotions. So generally, emotional regulation is better with higher HRV. Lower systemic inflammation, I don't know, it's good for longevity. And just in general, people who live longer have higher HRV, and science, again, says that centenarians, this is people who reached 100 years old, have higher HRV than people who are 90, 95. So again, better for living. So I asked you already whether you measure HRV. Somebody can share the numbers. What is this like span from lowest to highest? What do you have like around? No? Do you compete between each other, boyfriends, girlfriends, friends? Okay, I mean, I see guys, you don't compete. I'm so happy. I'm so happy. Because, what?
187.
187? Yeah. Okay, so.
It's my maximum. Heart rate variability.
No, heart rate variability can be 185. Can be. Is it HRV? Okay, anyway, the point I'm trying to make is that don't compare your HRV to your boyfriends, to your friends, and so on. Why? Because, of course, higher is better, and you want to be the best. But there is genetic difference in HRV. So around 50 to 60% of HRV we kind of inherit genetically. And you can see the age of people from 10 years till 60. And each dot is an individual. And you can see that individuals who are 30 years old, what is like a great span of HRV they can have from 20 to 140. Yeah. So genetically, we're predisposed to have some particular high or low HRV. It's important to know your baseline and know when it goes really down your baseline, or if you do some breath work or exercise that it really increases. So it's very individual. Mm-hmm.
It's genetic, but do they like have figured out some genes which actually affects it? Because I would also see your lifestyle has a huge difference on it.
Let's leave questions to the end. Just type the questions in the chat on WhatsApp, and we'll get to all of them.
Short answer, kind of yes. So, but you can still increase your HRV. Even though you are kind of predisposed to have particular baseline, you can always improve it, really. You can always rise it. You can make your autonomic system more dynamic. How you can do it? Nutrition. Science has shown that good nutrition and also kind of time-restricted nutrition, what does it mean? It's when you have a particular time, when you have breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and you don't eat several hours before going to bed. So the kind of inducing circadian rhythm with the food also helps to have a good high level of HRV. Stress management, people who have better stress management techniques, they again have higher HRV. Sleep, consistency, length, the same time you go to bed. Again, circadian rhythms help to have a high baseline HRV, light exposure. Exercise, zone 2, zone 3. Regular exercise was shown also to elevate your baseline HRV. And finally, breath work. So, and today we will focus on breath work, brain effect, hello. Breath work, it was Freudian slip. Breath work. And we will have a second speaker, amazing person, Topi from Finland, who will give lots of practical tips for you. I have chosen only one breathing technique to explain. That technique is fascinating to me. So, and it's called resonance breathing. Somebody knows it? Did you ever hear? Okay, 2 people. Good. So resonance breathing, why it is so cool? It is so cool because first it increases your baseline HRV. So if you do resonance breathing on regular basis, you will increase your basic HRV, baseline. And also it positively influences your emotional regulation. So you become more resilient to the stress and anxiety. And what it is. So basically for resonance breathing, you need to breathe in during 5 seconds. It's very slow, breathe in, and during next 5 seconds, you breathe out. And then you continue, breathe in, breathe out. So the interval of breathe in, breathe out are the same. It's together, it's 10 seconds. And that means that you make around 6 breaths in a minute. It's very slow breathing. And what happens in this like lower part of the graph, this is the heart rate. It's not HRV, it's just heart rate. Look, it starts to oscillate from, dependent on your baseline heart rate, from 60 to 70. And that oscillation, you see, it's really repeated with the same amplitude. While if you're just resting and you're lying on your bed, you have this very heart rate, which is like fragmented and shallow in a way. So why it's called resonance breathing? It's because this type of breathing induces the frequency identical to the baroreflex. I will have to explain you what is baroreflex. So in the aortic arc and in our neck, we have a big arteries which contain receptors, baroreceptors. And those receptors, they sense the pressure of the blood. And it's needed because we need to regulate our blood pressure, not to have it too high, too low, not to die, obviously. And then whenever those receptors feel something, oh, the blood pressure is too low, too high, it sends the signal to the brain stem. And then the brain stem sends the signal to the heart, and the heart starts pumping the blood faster or slower. And this is the way how our blood pressure is regulated. What is interesting that this baroreflex has a lag time, delay time, 10 seconds. 10 seconds of the breathing, this breathing technique. So whenever we do this breathing, we induce the resonance effect. And that resonance effect leads to the blood flow going to our brain, different brain regions in the same time. So usually our different brain regions get the blood in slightly different time periods. So it's like wave here, wave there, here is closer, brain area further, and so on. But with the resonance, which we induce with this breathing, we really supply two very important brain regions with the same blood flow. And these two brain regions, prefrontal cortex and amygdala, very important for emotional regulation. So in amygdala, we have signals responsible for the fear, threat, stress, anxiety. And in prefrontal cortex, we have all these cognitive thoughts which help us to resolve the stress. And by synchronizing the blood flow in these two regions, we kind of allow us to resolve the stress with our thoughts much more faster and more efficient way. Science has shown that people with post-traumatic PTSD, post-traumatic disorder, they have when they are triggered, the amygdala hijacks the brain, and prefrontal cortex is not active, doesn't have the blood flow there, oxygen, it doesn't work, so it's disconnected. The same happens in anxiety. So in anxiety, we feel this agitation because the amygdala is starting to send this sympathetic flight and fight signals, and we cannot stop it. We feel like, because our brain is switched off, and when I say our brain, I mean prefrontal cortex. So the resonance breathing increases the connectivity, functional connectivity of our thought and threat parts of the brain, and that's why we feel relaxed. And so the protocols suggest to do around 20 minutes of this resonance breathing. It's kind of a lot. I did it myself. I thought it will be so long, I will not finish. I finished, I did it, it was amazing. The rest of the day, I was just speaking slower. And I'm a fast speaker. I'm this like character time. I'm how to say, emotional, yeah, agitated person. So people with depression who do 30 minutes resonance breathing 3 times a week in 1 month show lower score in depression. So there are some validated questionnaire which you can check your depression. Then another paper showed that aggression actually goes down. There are ways to measure aggression in the experiments. And again, resonance breathing reduces the aggression. And the last little paper I leave you with is about basketball players. So you know that to really score in basketball, it's, of course, you need muscles, you need technique, but this emotional control that like, yeah, you do it, you hit it. It's very important. So basketball players who did 20 minutes of resonance breathing for several weeks scored better in shooting and dribbling and in something, I forgot this last word. So there are some like measurements, metrics for basketball. It's amazing. So I highly recommend you to try to do resonance breathing. It's very simple, but it really helps to reduce anxiety. And this is a big problem nowadays. So on this, I finish. Thanks for your attention. Q&A now, later. Combined, yeah. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Olena. We're going to switch to Topi now. All right, perfect. Topi, I think you are live. I will do this move over here.
Yeah. Can you see my slide now?
Actually, let's see. Yeah, hold on. Okay. Perfect.
Okay, great. So yeah, now I'm only seeing my slide, but it doesn't matter. I trust you are there. So basically, I'm here to talk about a little bit more practical level with Olena just said that there's a big tool that we actually have that is breathing. But before I start, I need to basically run you a little bit through how I got to the breathing. So I guess you're now seeing the second slide, aren't you?
Yeah.
It's where you swim.
Yeah, okay, great. Okay, now it works. All right, I don't ask again. So 20 years back, I think even more than 20 years back, I pumped in the freediving, and that's the sport where you actually hold your breath. So when you dive, everything you have with you is pretty much the air you are able to breathe before you start to dive. And I realized that to hold the breath, you need to learn how to breathe. And it was really like revealing for me, because I've used to be endurance athlete for all my life. I never thought about breathing. I never really actually thought about breathing other than that I have to breathe enough. But everything else has been just like, there is something that I just do. And that's the tricky thing about breathing, is that we do it all the time. We cannot stop. But in the same time, I think breathing is it's really a powerful tool, and we can choose if we would use it as such or not. And for me, I started realizing that breathing actually affects so many more than just a sports performance. And like Olena said, there are very simple techniques that you can use where your breathing actually becomes something that not only enhances your performance, but only enhances your health living, or your well-being. And nowadays it's kind of interesting, because people are starting to more and more talk about breathing. And for me, that one really big thing why people are more and more turning to the breathing is that we are getting more and more away from natural breathing. So I was just talking to my friend who's a doctor who's been actually teaching dancers how to breathe correctly, and she said that there really is no wrong way to breathe, but there sure is a better way. And this is how we actually treat breathing. We breathe all the time, but we don't really acknowledge how we do it. And I want to run you through now like 3 very simple things, like why breathing has become such a big issue nowadays, like why we are kind of lost the natural breathing way that we are kind of born with. And first, of course, is breathing through nose. And this might seem like really obvious to all of you, but breathing through nose is something that babies do. Like if you look at the baby, they breathe through nose, and if they get a flu, they are really in trouble, because they don't really know how to breathe through mouth. And that's why they are really good at eating at the same time and breathing. But that's really the most natural way of breathing. And if you look at now the healthy people that I follow, some people in US and around the world, and there is now really fashionable is that you tape your mouth when you go to sleep. And that's because that's the way how you teach your body to breathe really through nose. And breathing through nose is really important for several reasons. One reason, of course, is that while you breathe through nose, your air is warming up, especially in Finland nowadays when it's really cold. You can immediately feel the difference in your lungs if you breathe that really cold, like -10 or -20 air to your lungs, or if you breathe it through your nose. Then it gets humid. So when it gets to your lungs, it's already a lot more like approachable, than your lungs doesn't have to warm it up, and it's humid. And then of course it's more clean, because your nostrils are basically clean in the air. But this is something that while we are breathing nowadays, we tend to forget this. and this is something that I'm trying to kind of like do all the time, like breathing as little as possible through mouth, but as much as possible through nose. And even in sports, you can try this out. But if you do jogging, you can still mostly breathe through nose, at least in. So good way of trying it is like you breathe in through nose and out through mouth, and rhythm like 2 times in, 1 time once out is very good. And a lot of athletes I've been working with have been applying this to very low intensity exercises, that you start breathing through nose in, and only when the exercise is getting like higher intensities, then you start applying breathing in through mouth. And there are obvious benefits on this. And if you only take one thing out of what I've been talking today, is that try this out. Is that start thinking about what in your everyday life is that how you breathe. Do you mostly breathe through mouth, or do you mostly breathe through nose? Because that's really easy to try out. Second thing that it's really interesting is that I would say that people are not breathing enough, but we are breathing too much. So we are breathing too rapid pace. Everything in nowadays life is getting more and more rapid. We are our attention span is getting smaller. We are always in a hurry. We are rushing everywhere. We are like multitasking everything. And that shows also how we breathe. So more and more people are breathing like really shallow, really fast, which means that we are basically pumping out CO2 from our body even before our body is even absorbing it. So we are breathing way too rapid and way too fast. Olena said that this coherence breathing is very slow, which is not even true. It's like pretty natural rhythm of breathing. But for us, living in this kind of like very hectic life, it feels that if you breathe in 5 seconds and you breathe out 5 seconds, it feels really fast. Really slow. And while I was doing free diving, my like normal breathing rhythm before the dive was 30 seconds in, 30 seconds out. So when I'm doing coherence breathing, I'm having hard time of going that fast actually. And so it's kind of interesting how you can actually teach your body to really adapt the natural rhythm that 5 seconds, even when you are not doing it. It can become something that you apply when you are not even consciously doing that. So breathing slower and deeper will give you more CO2 in your body, and pH levels of your body is getting better, and you are also being able to kind of like slow down your rhythm. And if people are breathing less, meaning that slower and less pumping, it really feels different in your body. So this is the second thing. And then there's a third thing, which is acknowledging that you're breathing. Like I said before, I pump into free diving. I didn't really acknowledge the breathing, and I think this is the case for most of the people. And while I teach athletes, that I do quite a lot nowadays, because a lot of people are getting more and more interested about how I actually breathe when I'm exercising. There is always some sort of a breathing technique to different sports. There is a different breathing technique to weightlifting and dancing. There is a very different breathing technique to swimming, for example. But every sport has their natural rhythm of breathing. And in many sports, it goes in a way that you basically do your sport and you adapt your breathing to the rhythm how you do the sports. Whereas if you really want to get best out of your body, you need to do the opposite way. So you basically need to take the breathing as a basis and then adapt your rhythm to that breathing. So faster you go, more air you need. So you have to somehow get that air in, and the rhythm has to be good to that air intake. And slower you go, the air intake requirements are a little bit different. So that's the one. That's another thing. Is like while you're doing any exercise, let's say walking would be probably the easiest one. Monitor how you breathe. Think about how you actually do you breathe in by steps, or like in out, for example, or how do you breathe? Because this really is changing dramatically while you're applying more power or more speed. And controlling that power with breathing and not the other way around makes a huge difference of how you're feeling. So basically, I'm taking this out for a while now, so now I'm seeing you guys. So basically meaning that breathing in a way is a tool for many things. And if you start applying things from the breathing to what you do and not from what you do to breathing, you know, it makes it whole different aspect of how you feel. And going back to the free diving was that for me, it was really the ultimate test of breathing, because while you are in the surface, the start goes in a way that there is a certain time you have, because, you know, I was the last world record I did was 60 meters down without fins. So basically there were safety divers inside. So I had like 2-minute window where I needed to go down. And think about, you're going to do the world record. So you're going to dive the deepest anyone else has. Your heart rate needs to be below 40. So you basically have to go down with a heart rate of 35 or something like that. Only thing you can do is breathe. So I was applying this technique of only concentrating on the airflow in and airflow out. And like I said, it was 30-second intervals that I was doing. And I was able to basically calm my body down, apply the heart rate, and then dive. That wouldn't be impossible without certain breathing rhythm I had, because otherwise I would be like too excited to go, and you know, it would mess up the thing completely. Nowadays I'm doing this ultra cycling events where you basically go like 3 days in a row or something like that. I was in this one competition last fall in Granada, Spain, where we rode 790 kilometers like from the start, and everybody had to bring their own supplies and everything. And I rode over 60 hours, and I slept twice 15 minutes in each night. And basically what I did was, like, when I got too tired, and I know this sounds really extreme, but it's not that extreme actually, but I was sleeping on the basis of 15 minutes when I got too tired. But what happens is when you basically you are like hammering with heart rate of, let's say, 130, 160, like hours and hours and hours, and then you have to immediately fall asleep. So what I did was I was actually applying the coherence breathing before I fell asleep. So I did 2 minutes of coherence breathing, put my alarm clock on, and woke up 15 minutes later every time. So that's a really powerful system of slowing your body down, that Olena was just talking about. And it really helps even in that kind of situation where you need to calm yourself down like immediately. So basically that's also a tool. And for me, that tool works really well in terms of, you know, when you have to stop, rest, and then keep going. So what I want you to guys do right now is that everybody takes 10 breaths, and then I want to ask from you, how did you feel? Just take 10 breaths and monitor a little bit how you actually breathe. No certain rhythm, no certain, you know, no requirements at all. And then you can, some of you can tell, like, how did you breathe? Like, based on what I've been just talking about, we can a little bit monitor of, like, how did you feel? And let's take 10 normal breaths starting now. At least everyone is breathing through nose, which is good. Are you done? Not in a hurry. Yeah, go ahead.
Can you hear us if we say something?
Yeah, I can hear you. Okay, I guess we are pretty much there now. So first thing, I will give a couple of observations from here. This is of course a little bit hard to do remotely. First thing is like when you breathe, you need to basically open yourself up. Like we tend to sit a little bit like, you know, leaning forward and our shoulders are bent and all that. But if you think about where your lungs are, you basically need to open your lungs. That's the only way to get the air in. And another thing is like, try to breathe without having tension on the throat, because normally what happens is if you breathe shallow, you've been tending to, you breathe with these muscles here. You try to suck the air in. Whereas if you really let the air in, your diaphragm, which is kind of like almost like a stomach muscles, it goes down. So you basically open up the air here, and while you open up the space here, and that kind of even like sucks the air in. So really like open yourself up and let the air be in. And this applies to all kind of breathing. Sports, it's sometimes really different and hard because you are some sort of a position. But so if I breathe, I normally always try to first get my kind of like posture right. So sit pretty straight and kind of get the shoulders really relaxed. And if you start doing this coherence breathing, this is what I recommend you to do, is to find a very nice spot where you breathe. Make sure that your throat and shoulders and all these muscles here are as relaxed as possible. And then you can just start breathing in kind of very slowly. And if it feels first really hard to breathe through nose, you can start with the mouth. But if you breathe through mouth, don't keep your mouth like this, but put your lips like a little bit so that you regulate the airflow. So it's like this. It's same, but you can do the same with the nose, because there's the same system in a nose that you cannot breathe too much at the same time. And then when you breathe in, you should feel that you're kind of like, when I was learning how to breathe, I was really trying to kind of like even think that something opens in my lungs, so that I almost like open up everything and let the air flow. And then the same thing is like when you let the air out, you just let go. And it when you do it well, you don't see it from the person. Like it's like if I breathe now 5 seconds in, it's like only thing you could see is my belly is getting a little bit bigger, and then it goes down. So you shouldn't see any tension anywhere here, because it's like you just let the air go in and then let the air go out. And good thing about this coherence breathing is that you can do it anywhere. I normally always do it when I drive a car. Of course, then you have to be careful not to fall asleep, because it's really relaxing. But it's a good way of doing that. Or in the metro when I go to work or something like that. It works that way really well. And when you learn it, it's not really visible. So you are not some sort of yoga people who are like, yeah, I'm doing some mantras here, but you're just breathing, like like in any circumstance. And one thing and this is out of scope from today, is that one thing that helps a lot learning to breathe is breath holding, because then you kind of like, you calm your body self down, you hold your breath for some time. There is this another breathing that people tend to do, is like, it's called box breathing, where you actually have after every 5 seconds there is 5 seconds of not breathing. So there's 5 seconds in, 5 seconds holding, 5 seconds out, 5 seconds holding, which is a little bit different from coherence breathing, but quite there. So takeouts from today, really kind of like short recap, is that every time you can breathe through nose, it's the best thing you can do for yourself. Air is healthier. It's, lungs love it if it comes a little bit warmer and more moisture and a little bit cleaner. So breathing through nose is something that I think can make a big difference, because then you tend to breathe also longer. With mouth, it's really easy to breathe like really fast, but when you breathe through nose, it's so much harder to breathe in kind of fast rhythm. So it always also calms you down. And the second thing is that acknowledge your breathing every now and then, and kind of like feel if you are too tense. Feel that, lower your shoulder, let the air flow, and give yourself kind of a little break on it. What I do normally nowadays is that every time I have a business meeting or something, I always do some kind of like slow breathing before. It's kind of like calm my body down and relax myself. And it's kind of habit that I have that it works really well. And then the third thing is, while you're doing exercise to sports, pay attention how you breathe on sports. It's really interesting because you probably haven't thought about it much, but if you can apply nose breathing on the sports in low exercise intensities, it's really good habit to do. And while you start, needing more air, then think about the rhythm, how that rhythm fits to the sports, or how the sports fits to that rhythm. Like play with that a little bit. It's really nice. You will find a new dimension of that like instantly. And last thing I have to say that this coherence breathing, as simple as it sounds, and it's so simple that you don't even believe that it's actually working, but it's working. I've had many people I've been talking who've been applying it, and it really makes a difference. But routine is the most important thing. So you can even start like 5 minutes before they go to bed, 5 minutes when you get out of the bed. Somebody said it kind of makes the blood flow for 4 hours, but of course it depends what you do after that. So consistency, not too much at a time, but consistency is a really good one on that one. Thanks. I think I spent now 20 minutes about that I was giving, so it was nice talking to you. So I think now we have a question.
All right, Topi, that was really fascinating. Thank you. We're going to take some Q&A now. There's some Q&A coming from the live stream and from the group. I think the first one was actually for Olena, who is right over here. I think the question was, yeah, you're there. The question was, is there a relationship between blood pressure and HRV?
Yes. So.
Topi, can you hear Olena okay?
Yeah, I can.
You have high blood pressure when your heart pumps lots of blood. You would agree? High blood pressure is equal to high heart rate. Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
so there's a relationship.
Yeah, well, to heart rate. And
Yeah.
when we have high heart rate, so if it's like around 120 beats a minute, heart rate variability goes down. Because when there are many beats happening in 1 minute, the variability between those beats shrinks. So yes.
Cool. Thank you. And then Topi, there was a question for you, also from the live stream. I can only run when I breathe through my mouth. Any advice for that?
Run slower. I know it's really hard to apply at first. So I would apply it like run slower and breathe in through nose and out through mouth. Start like that. And I know it feels strange because you've been accustomed to do that. Because through mouth you just have kind of unlimited airflow all the time. So you have to be a lot more careful with the rhythm, good rhythm that you kind of like, it's a regular rhythm and it somehow pays through your footsteps. So how I started it, I started with 2 times in and 1 out, like through how I run. And that makes it so try that first, or even 3 times in and 1 out. So then you don't feel like you are kind of like running out of breath, because that's the feeling how it is the first time you start using your nose, and it's you're not going to lose your consciousness. I will guarantee this, but that 3 times in, once out is the good way to start, and then try to go like 2 times in and then 1 in 1 out type of thing, like little by little.
All right, thank you. There were a bunch of questions, I think, from the group. You have a question?
Can
Sure.
I? Topi, do you hear me well, right?
Yeah.
What is the best way to breathe while you are doing resistance training, weightlifting, dynamic?
That's a really good, because I just had an argument, because I'm actually doing weightlifting every winter because I do a lot of endurance sports and I'm an old guy, so I have to take care of the kind of basic muscles. Anyway, normally there is, how they teach is that you basically take the air in while you're doing the exercise. So while you're lifting something, so you basically take the air in, hold your breath, and then lift and release it. But you don't breathe while you're doing that. And I was just, like I said, I just talked to my friend who's a dance teacher and doctor focusing on breathing, and she said that she would do it absolutely opposite way. So she would do it in the way that you basically breathe in while you lift, and then release, that you are not holding your breath, because while you're holding your breath, you tend to get, your body is getting really tense. And while your body is getting really tense, it's not elastic for this movement. Of course, you have to have certain muscles that you have to have tense. So yeah, I know they teach you that to hold your breath while you're doing the repetitions, but try the other way around, how it feels. I encourage you to do that. So I don't really have that really strong opinion, because there is a huge tradition, and then there's this kind of another opinion about it. So I'm not going to say that either one is wrong, but sometimes it's just holding your breath while doing something is normally not the right way to go, because it means that you are then kind of like, everything gets really tense. And if you are doing something that needs elasticity, it's really hard to achieve. So that was not really a direct answer, but more of a speculation about it. Sorry.
Thanks, Topi. We'll take some questions from the gang.
Thank you so much, Olena and Topi.
The best thing.
I can speak louder.
Okay.
I can.
Topi, you let us know if you can hear.
Barely, but I'll do my best.
So thank you so much, Topi and Olena, for your insightful presentations. I have two questions. The first one is, what about the classical breathwork? Like in Berlin, it's so popular now and around the world. And there, in some classes, they teach us to breathe fast and deep, which is the opposite of what you advised us to do to regulate. But the result of that type of breathing is that at some point when we reach this higher heart rate and we are basically getting into a mini panic attack, then all of the emotions that are stored in the body get released, and then this intensity subsides, which teaches our body to endure the stress. And I was wondering whether you would agree that it's a good way for self-regulation and maybe practicing it from time to time, or rather for every day it's better to use this conscious breathing, slow and rhythmic. And then the second question, Topi, when you were explaining to us how to breathe, you put a lot of emphasis on the chest, but I was thinking, because also in the breathwork and in the singing classes, they are teaching us to breathe through the belly. What is the best way? Should we focus on the diaphragm in the middle or the belly? Honestly, I don't know how to breathe through the belly without intention, how to teach the brain to breathe through the belly and not through the chest. But what's your idea?
Yeah, I can answer the second question first.
Okay, I'm first.
You are absolutely second first. Yeah, absolutely. Sorry.
I will answer first question after you.
Okay. So yeah, okay, let's do it that way. Okay, I'll answer the second question first. You are absolutely right. You should breathe to your belly. It goes I don't know if you see my belly, here. Now I'm breathing. Look at my belly now. Now it's full of air. There is nothing. Nothing. Sorry. So basically, yeah, that's exactly how it is. But the biggest obstacle of doing that is that if you have everything tense here, so that means that you are kind of like having your like chest muscles here and throat and everything tense, that you are trying to breathe here. So that's why I was emphasizing relaxing the upper part of the body so you can concentrate on the lower part. So that was my point. Like maybe I put it a little bit, hard way, but that's normally where you cannot teach people to use diagram because people don't even acknowledge where it is basically. So basically that's why I think it's better to focus first that you have a clean airflow from upper part so that you don't have everything tense here. And then you can start focusing on the belly. That's how it is. So Olena, you wanna answer the first question, or you want me to answer that first, and then you go, or how we do it? that was a really good question, though.
You first.
Okay, I'll go first. I believe in extreme exercises, especially in controlled environment. I normally, when I progress with people with the breath work, we always go breath holding exercises. I'm not really fan of hyperventilation. Like I know you can get drunk and everything. There's even a therapy that people use by after hyperventilating 20 minutes, but you could as well as drink one bottle of vodka and get to the same situation, to be honest. Like I think it's messing up with your brain type of stuff. And of course you can do it, like there's nothing wrong with it, but I don't know what you achieve by it. Whereas breath holding exercises, you kind of tend to teach your body to kind of adapt to the situation where your CO2 levels are getting really high, and there is certain discomfort that teach you to really use all your lungs and everything. And I especially in controlled environment, those exercises are really good. But I don't really, like I said, I'm not a big fan of hyperventilation. Like I know I just talked to one of my friends who's been studying as an actor, and he said that she said that she's still really mad to the teacher that put them to hyperventilate in the room and cry and got really nuts. Like they were losing the, feeling from their hands and everything, because that happens when your blood circulation is concentrating. But she was really afraid of doing those exercises because they were really scary. That they are extreme experiences, but like I said, not necessary in my opinion.
Thank you so much.
I want to add. So I will add to the second question. So I think breathing with a diaphragm, so it optimizes for the amount of the air you breathe in, and maybe you optimize for some time for this. But ideally, of course, as Topi said, relax the neck, have a big volume here, and then maybe you can go and try to work on this. Maybe at some point you can have all of it. But I think it's a question of a mastery. And to your first question, I did myself this hyperventilation breath work. And of course, I'm a scientist. Everything I approach scientifically. So I believe, I didn't do extensive research, but I believe what is happening with this hyperventilation. So it's basically breathe in, breathe out with the same speed. But when you do it kind of pretty fast, and 60 minutes, I thought I will not manage to do it. I managed, surprisingly. What happens that I chronically deprive myself of oxygen. So with this type of breathing, I have a lack of oxygen in my brain, in my body, and of course, neocortex, my cognitive function, it will be the first thing which will be kind of switched off, because this is not essential. Essential is breathing, our instincts, and so on. And then this amygdala, where I showed you the fears, our traumas, and also hippocampus, where the memory lies, those areas, they get oxygen. So basically, you remove the control of your cognitive function, and you allow those traumas, fears to kind of be free. And some people were having kind of orgasms, and somebody was like dying next to me. So it was like a mess. I was having my separate trip, which was, we were like sharing a bit, like everyone had different stuff. And it's kind of can be used, I think, in therapy, but it should be controlled, because who knows if you unleash some fears from today's or from the trauma which happened like 20 years ago. So it should be controlled and used with psychotherapists. I believe can be powerful, but I got my little trip and that's it. As Topi said, like take vodka, you will have the same result. The neocortex will be switched off. So this is the addition to hyperventilation.
All right, thank you. We have a couple of questions. I'll take one question online, one question local. We'll flip between the two. There's a question about lowest heart rate during sleep or average HRV. Which one is more important to look at when you wake up?
Average HRV.
I would I will support average HRV, because average means that like throughout the day you have pretty high HRV, if I understand.
The question is about during your sleep. Like when you sleep and you look at your, you wake up and you look what your HRV was during the night. Is that more important than your heart rate during the night? Or?
It's not important. It's a level of detail of information. If you look through the peaks and when it was peak or not, then you see granular information, and then you know that in the night something happened or didn't. And average will just give you understanding how it's like average, I would say. But general, yeah.
No, I just wanted to add a little bit about this, because I had a very funny situation. Like my watch started ringing every night, telling me that my heart rate is like 35 every night, and I have to go to the doctor. And my wife as well told me that you better go to a cardiologist and check what's going on. I told her that everything that I Googled was that because I'm a runner, the average heart rate during the night or when you're resting is going pretty low. But nevertheless, I went to the cardiologist, and they basically almost with bad words sent me back home, and they do not want to see me again there. Because said, you're running marathons, so you're probably fine. And about, I wanted to also ask a question about breathing. I'm a self-taught runner, and sometimes when I have an like a little mounting, or I'm running upwards, and after that I'm losing my breath and my heart rate goes up, I'm trying to calm myself down by kind of trying to control my breath and do not let myself breathe more. So I feel like I want more, but I'm not doing this. Is this a somewhat normal technique to do this? So I'm basically depriving myself from breathing more, and after like 1 minute, 1 minute and a half, I'm again back in the nice rate.
Topi, it's for you.
Yeah, so I figured. There are a couple of things on this is that you can regulate your, like I said, like if breathing comes first and then the speed comes second, breathing has a very, very strong effect of how much you can, what is your speed, how fast you can go, or in this case, like how fast you can go uphill. You basically, when you regulate your breath, you have to kind of like adapt your speed on that.
Thanks.
All right, thanks, Topi. One more question for Topi from the live chat. Can you talk about swimming underwater? If you want to swim 50 meters underwater, for example, should you swim fast to get it over with, or slow to save oxygen? All right. Any final question from the group? Going once? Going twice? Thomas.
I am curious, like we mentioned longevity, like the association between longevity and HRV. I wonder if it's a causal effect or if it's a correlation.
It's mostly correlation.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Yeah, and then I just wonder, like, does it help so much if we change HRV, if it's not the cause, but only a product of the underlying thing, maybe emotion? Because, I mean, many of these things, for example, the breathing, which we talked about, is mainly calming me down. And maybe this calming me down de-stresses my body, and that has impact on my HRV, but also on other things which are
exactly. So
healthy.
super interconnected. I think we can spend hours talking on that. But centenarians have higher HRV, it's fact. And emotional regulation makes us happier and live longer, and healthier is also fact. Just two things.
Yeah, thank you for the final question. It's over. Topi, thank you. Everyone, round of applause for our speakers. Thank you, everybody who is tuning in. And we have another event in 2 weeks, right here in Flowstate. And I think we can announce that Topi is actually going to be visiting Berlin. I think we're aiming for March. Is that right? We're aiming for March, and we're going to do a full workshop on, teaching breathwork. You want to say a couple of words before we close? What people can learn there? people got really excited here about these sports-focused parts. So we're looking forward to it. Thank you so much, Topi, and thank you to everyone who was to the live stream. See you soon. Take care. Bye.
Bye. Bye.